Hello, everybody. So up to week 7, 7 of 8. So we're almost to the end of the summer. Moving along quickly. We've covered a lot of the key objectives. Seen most of the stuff we want to do. On tap for tonight, there's a little spiel I like to give in all my classes. We all have seen it before. If you're in this class, you're getting prepared for a career as a desk job, and sitting at a desk is one of the worst things to do to a human body. So there's a little spiel I like to give in every class about ergonomics. I guess diet and exercise fit in there too. You all have heard that spiel. I leave that one off, but sitting at a desk is one of the worst things that we can do to a human body. So we'll talk about that in a second. This week is when the CI/CD workflow on your group project is due. And remember, the project part isn't being graded, just the GitHub part. So even if it's a pipeline for a program that doesn't do anything but crash immediately, that'll be fine as long as the pipeline builds. Just go ahead and build the pipeline and let me know if the program's not running or something. Make sure you know where those buttons aren't getting up. You remember they were very, very easy. So we'll look at that again. Over the weekend, well, actually after Thursday, I realized that thing we were looking at very briefly. You might have noticed the speed we went through it and the casualness. It was sort of a secondary thought. It's like, okay, this is something that can be done with this. But after that, I realized that the applications to control Git, we see so many of them because there's not a lot to writing them. But it fit in a category that I've been looking for in software, and that's non-gaming things to put in virtual reality. So I realized that version control would be a great one for that. So I spent the weekend putting that together. Just a 2D one, so I went into a game engine and I used the HUD for a GUI to get all the 2D things. Tested any bugs, all the functionalities there. And I have a couple ideas, but something like in a virtual reality world, the branches are like boxes, and then the commits are pages inside the boxes, or maybe smaller boxes. I've never seen paper used in VR, and I have a pretty good feeling there's a really good reason why. I've never seen paper used in VR. I haven't tried it in any of my projects, but that was my thought, like a box sitting there, because that's the branch. And if you want to check out a commit, you just pull the paper out of the box. Like cherry picking would be a matter of putting that paper in a different box. It's like switching to a different branch, or merging boxes. You take one box and just like drop it in the other box and have all those controls. But I've been trying to find non-game applications to make in virtual reality to put on those. Because yeah, it's good little side income, just like putting things on Google Play or Apple Store or any of those. Once it's made, it just sits there, and sometimes somebody comes in from it, or put advertisements on it. And yeah, for the Google Play Store, it's mostly advertisements. You put in include advertising and give away. And for virtual reality stuff, it's people are used to like the Apple Store where they used to paying for stuff, not really much, just a couple bucks. It's still a couple bucks here and there, so good money, and I thought it would at least be fun to make. But while I was doing that, I came across several things that I was like, oh, I don't think we covered that in class. I don't remember covering that in class, so I made some notes here. Little things like when we look at a difference, when we look at the difference between a commit and its parent without typing in patches explicitly. There's a shortcut for that. I think we looked at a couple of the shortcut commands. How do we preview a merge, right? Like on GitHub or AWS code commit, GitLab, Bitbucket was popular in the thing last week. On all of those, when you do a pull request, it previews the merge, like it tells us whether that merge is going to work or not. But what we saw, I think we skipped over the one with the parameters that would allow us to preview that merge, and then in the terminal it shows that, which if you're gonna make an application, that's kind of an important thing. You don't want to just commit to the merge immediately. See that and then get notified of conflicts before they happen and all that sort of stuff. But just a few random things that I stumbled across while I was putting that together over the weekend. It covered everything we've seen in class, plus a little bit more, and a couple Python scripts, because for like the to go look for folders and silently clone things too and all that. I just used the TK interface file dialog. That's really easy. Just a few Python scripts, and it was still under 600 lines. With lots of white space spreading it out to make it look. So it doesn't. It's not a very big application. The virtual reality part, I have a feeling, is going to be a lot bigger. Tying the functionality into some really nice graphics to be a little bit bigger, but I thought it might be a fun program. But at least for in here, I came up with a few things that we'd skip. And then also there's a note, it was mentioned in the discussion boards a couple times, something that I had completely skipped over because I didn't care. I don't care much for the feature, but it was mentioned in the discussion board that, and I realized I probably should have covered that. I've been using PowerShell all the time, and by default, PowerShell doesn't tell you which branch of a repository you want, which is just a function that's off by default. And I didn't show it that out, so I have a note to go over that. Maybe I'll look at that first to show you where it's at. You might have to install some stuff that should be installed by default. I can start by that and then start with that and then look at the ergonomic stuff. After within the discussion board, I'm going to jump in PowerShell, Windows X, and then I'll get terminal. Or let me open Git Bash to show you what I'm talking about. So Git Bash has this on by default. Documents delete. I think I put it in here. Well, we go to the home directory, and now get into documents. Delete folder. Oh, I must have deleted the one earlier. So I'm going to show you real quick what I was referring to. I think everybody's seen it. So if I make a quick folder, something, get something. That's a good name for it. Get something and then navigate into that. Oops, CD get something and get initialize this. Oh, it's already done. Tell me how to option, but right here, it tells me where. Right. I didn't think because I tend to skip over that and nobody asked about it and other things. I can show you what does that. Here and get back. It's just in a little script. If we change to the Etsy folder, here's our bash.rc file. So the configuration for the thing. So bash.c. So our name configuration. Here's one someone forgot they did it someplace different here. So here's our PowerShell script. Or not PowerShell. Our prompt script. So there's most of the colors, the directory we're on, all those things mean something. And here at the end, there's this extra little bit added on about the symbol. And scroll down, this is all the configuration stuff. Actually, I have to scroll down and at the bottom. All this stuff is like talking about how this shell should look. So as far as on PowerShell, if you wanted to add that in, if you like put the question Stack Overflow, I did check. You see dozens of multiple responses where people just shared the script they wrote for customizing that. We have a similar script. We're going to need to go next. So we'll change into pro.d, and for bash RC, they spread it out amongst a bunch of different things. So here's our get prompt. So open that, get prompt.sh. At the bottom or the top. So just checking a couple things, and then we can kind of see it right here. So this color here would change color to cyan, right? That was the only blue thing in the prompt. So that gives you an indication that it is this variable right here, which actually comes from another file. We can dig through and keep looking for them, but they just say that list out what the main branch is. The other script just checks to see if there's a .git folder in the current directory or any parent directories, and then just looks to see what branch it's on. So it's not complicated to add into the scripts. Those probably look like a mess. There is a default one that, depending on your system, it might not be on PowerShell by default. It's Git Posh. Oh, Posh Git.
Oh, yeah.
That's the recommended one. So I know it's online, so it's all like Python. PowerShell has that modern syntax, so we need to import a module. Right, you're used to the word import in Python. They spell everything out explicitly in PowerShell, and there's one called Posh Git, and if that activates, I guess I should go to that one with the documents/delete, and I just made the git something, and that's how we get that notification on the PowerShell. I usually don't use that, so I didn't think about it all semester, and nobody asked me. So I continued not thinking about it, and then I started in the discussion board, and it's like, oh, I'm going to put that on the notes to see. And then to remove module posh.git. So you can turn it on and off every time, or turn it on overall. If it's not there, the command is just install module. PowerShell has all those really nice names. You can see what they are. All the variables are explicitly what it's doing. So you do install module posh-git.
I got an error on both things when I tried to import and install. I got the same error there.
Doesn't it? I don't think it did. Let me start as administrator. Windows X, and then A starts as an administrator, which I guess would make sense because we would have to make a change. There is another thing. It might just, so if you started as administrator and ran it with privileges, then install module posh-git, which mine's already on here. And if there's any dependencies, a little more pop up. Do you want to install this dependency? I'm not sure which all versions it's included in and which ones it's not included in. It's just install module posh.git. And then when you go back to your own user, you use that. Or if you check Stack Overflow, there's a bunch, just ask that question in Stack Overflow, or put it in Google and look for the Stack Overflow results. You'll see a lot of people just went ahead and posted links or copy and pasted their own script, which is a lot nicer than that one. There's some that are a lot better. They will customize. You can really customize that information. And if you see that, you can take control of it because we're programmers, right? We're the ones that tell the computer what to do. So for a particular word that we want to see in the prompt isn't there, then we're the ones that tell the computer how to put that word there. Fairly straightforward. But when after you install that, yeah, so running with administrative privileges, you might need to set execution policy. So set execution policy, that one is probably signed. Actually, I'm gonna put get help. Get help, set execution policy, so we can see all these. So by default anymore, your computer might be set to restricted, which means it will not run any script whatsoever unless it was developed by Microsoft. So even if you write your own scripts, it won't run it. So we're going to change that. Unrestricted allows anything, so you probably don't want to go that far. But the one right above it, remote sign, if it was created by you, or if it can identify who created it. So as long as it comes from the internet in some way that it can identify who created it, that's usually the one to go with. So to do that, we set execution policy. This one where it is not case sensitive. I just went ahead and did Pascal case to make it clear what the words were. And then that remote sign will run any script that you create and anything that's downloaded from the internet, as long as it can identify who it is. So you might need to do that as well.
Yeah, I got it to work when use the admin.
Okay.
And so that's always been one of my pet peeves with PowerShell. I did not even realize it's possible. Now I've got it working. And I assume that does the same thing for like the way it's showing main now. It will also show if I'm in a virtual environment.
Yes, so Python brings that in and Vim. And some other ones. I almost never use Vim. Virtual environment one, the default one. There's another one that's pip Vim, pip in. So it's included with pip, and it has a couple extra functions that I like. It forces you to create your virtual environment in a no write that place like program files, x86, and then you don't have those accidents where you end up like 5,000 extra files in your folder that aren't really necessary. I always use that one, but some of them will. It depends on who brought it in. But PoshGit is the one that it's on some installations of PowerShell by default, and not on others. I'm not sure which versions it is or isn't. So it's probably easier just to install.
Do you have to import the module every time you launch PowerShell, or does it stay?
You can set it. I just prune it every time. I believe the Git, if we check the official Git SDM page for it, they labeled the page Git in PowerShell. I was expecting it to say Posh. Oh, I guess that is Posh, isn't it? Oh, PowerShell.
Oh,
I was thinking Posh like polish or something.
yeah.
They just went with that word, but I just now realized that, oh, that is PowerShell. This has the command you want, Nathan. So install. Oh, here it is. Add PoshGit to profile. If you run now, I believe you will need the elevated privileges as well, in order to at least to add it to all of them. If you want to add it to your own thing, oh yeah, I forgot the scope. Yeah, we can bring in, say what scope to use it for, so that we don't have to do it every time. This is probably the one you want, Nathan. And then it's just part of the book. But yes, we're programmers. We tell the machine what to do. So if it's not displaying the word we want to see, it's kind of on us to go see that word. And there are nicer ones if you want to look into it. You put that question in PowerShell. So Git in PowerShell, and then check Stack Overflow, which should be near the top. Maybe I need to be more specific. Show Git branch. Oh, Git branches in PowerShell. That's what I checked to see it before. Yeah, and on the Stack Overflow one, a whole bunch of people just shared their scripts directly. Some of them as short as just one line. But yes, things like this. They would write a script that gives you really good control, and you can look over that and see how we customize all of that, and you just save it as a .ps1 is the PowerShell script. And there's lots of them on there, but I wanted to make sure I included that because since I hadn't used that all semester, I didn't ever think about it, and the question didn't come up. Which actually, I guess, looking at those scripts on Stack Overflow might be the better option, because then you could do that for all sorts of places. Anytime you wanted to see more information in your PowerShell prompt, you'd see how to customize that. Because sometimes that gets really long too, right? Our prompt can get really, really long, so we could cut out all the middle parts. Maybe just look at the last folder there. I do that a lot, especially on my Mac, because the Mac terminal always opens up really, really small. So if there's sometimes the prompt will wrap around to the next line with so many folders there. So I would usually reset that so that it only shows the very last folder when I'm currently in. One more CD git something. And then, yeah, IT mindset, so I just import that module so that if I want to see it, I can do that, and then that will last until I close the terminal. I think. Let me check. Import posh git. Git posh, did I put it backwards? Oh.
Import module.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Python. It has been I got here early this morning and spent several hours teaching high school game dev and not the afternoon class. And I almost did it again. Import module. Get posh or posh git?
Posh git.
Thank you. Posh git. So let me put all the things stays there. No, it looks like it has to be imported all the time, every time. But if you run that other line that is right there on the official Git documentation, it will automatically be there every time. Import module. And that's a useful thing to see. I just never thought about it all semester because I tend to not look at it, and a lot of times when that pops up, I've been trying that off in the wrong.
Yeah, I've had it come up, like it came up in another class today, or not today, yesterday, where somebody happened to have been working on, our group project, and they were making changes in their local repository, but it wasn't to the correct branch. So we started having some merge things that we had to work out. And that's where, to me, that's what makes it useful, because if I branch out to something, I want to know, am I doing in the right spot?
Okay, and that situation right there is what Git cherry pick was actually designed for. If we make it on the wrong branch, then I'm just going to make up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We cherry pick that one commit and move it to a different branch. So that situation right there is exactly what it's for. But like you mentioned, it can be useful to avoid that by just seeing what branch you're on the whole time. I usually don't do it because I haven't done it this summer, but again, usually I set my prompt. If I'm not in a situation where I just did a factory reset right before the summer semester and you do another factory reset right after the summer semester, so I didn't bother to configure anything, I usually set prompt so I only see the last folder, and that way they don't take up any space, and turn off a lot of the clutter there. But there's a lot of it gets into personal preference thing, right? All of us we're unique individuals, different opinions, what we want to see there, what we wouldn't want to see. You can also highlight it. It doesn't have to be just the white, that blue letters at the end. maybe I can pull up a picture quicker than to describe it. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Customize Windows terminal. And there's probably some images. Yeah, so like this one. We can color code each part of the thing, so then it's very visible. And having complete control over it like that can be useful. You can set it up the way you want it set up. Right? Your programmers. If you don't like what the computer's doing, have the computer do something different. It also seems a good example to make that point. Is that
Just a heads up, if I drop offline here, we have severe weather coming through now, so
okay?
it's heavy thunder and whatnot. So if I lose my internet or something, that's why I drop.
Okay, I understand. The next thing I want to talk about, this is a little spiel I give in every class. It seemed like a good time for it. The main thing tonight, Nathan, and get cut off is those CI/CD pipelines, and we saw that earlier. I was just going to do it again this week because this is the week that yours is actually due. And as far as the project goes, you do not have to make a pipeline for a functional thing. If the program does not work, that is fine, as long as the GitHub workflow tries to publish that non-functioning program to the packages. That's all I'm looking at this week, making sure we have that project management stuff. But first, I like to give this spiel every class I teach, because if you're in this class, you're planning on an IT career. In particular, this one, you're planning on the software development career, which means sitting at a desk writing code. And sitting at a desk writing code, sitting at a desk is one of the worst things that can be done for the human body. The human body is really, really efficient at a lot of things. Like traditionally, that would often say diet and exercise for losing weight, and it's just the diet. The exercise does not really help with losing weight unless you do a lot of exercise. Like if you're training to run a marathon, that helps lose weight, right? Running 30 miles. But cardio equipment, the one that was going to burn the most calories is the road machine if you use it properly. When you're using your whole body and like going through the steps and using every like 85 or 90% of the muscles in your body. Doing that is probably the most efficient cardio or the cardio machine that would burn the most calories. And if you got online and burn and went as hard as you could for about 20 minutes, you would barely burn any calories more than if you just sat on a box for that same 20 minutes. The human body is incredibly efficient at what it does. And sitting at the desk is designed for a lot of things, a lot of activities. Sitting at the desk is not one of them. It's a very unnatural thing. If you're in your working career and somebody else goes into say construction at the same time, along the way, they're going to have a lot more little injuries. Construction, right? A lot more little cuts, scrapes, pinch fingers, that sort of thing. But by the time you hit retirement age, they're going to be in much better shape. If you spend your entire working career at a desk, it's going to wear on your body, and when you hit retirement age, it's going to be hard to do anything. It's just that it's a dynamic thing, and if we don't, and sitting at that unnatural position, right, the rectangular desk, that doesn't really match anything in the natural world. It's bad shape to work with, and there's some other ones too. There's little things we can do to help. I just want to talk about a few of those, sort of the cool approach with the tools we use. I think most people are at least somewhat aware of this stuff, right? Sharing the screen. It's starting with the keyboard. I don't want to share my screen. I turn the camera on. So our first input on writing code is a keyboard like this, right? Probably seen, I know y'all have seen those before. We have our keys there. One thing that does help is you want to try to push keys straight down as much as possible, because this thing will damage your body. And if you're heading into programming, you're going to spend a lot of time on a keyboard right here. And the problem is that flat surface. And if I try to hold it parallel to the camera, that's not really a natural shape. There's a couple rocks that will break off flat, but not many things that would fit that. Or you just look at my fingers. That is not intended for something flat. We have to hold our hand in an unnatural position. Have to hold every finger differently just to get a flat surface on it. It can make a bit of a difference. The more straight down you push, the better it can be. I guess it's like the piano thing on piano keys, it's easy to swipe down. And when you see on my fingers, all of the movement is right there in one knuckle. You want to try to spread the movement out amongst all of the knuckles on your finger. That prevents the long-term damage. One of the biggest ones, though, all of the nerves in your hand bundle together and run through a tube called carpal tunnel. You probably heard that word. It's prevalent as desk jobs are in our society. But the tube is called the carpal tunnel. And if that tube gets damaged, my understanding of it is your brain just always receives the pain signal from your hand. No matter what, you're somewhere between your hand and your brain, your body just goes ahead and adds the pain signal in no matter what's going on. It's not enough to qualify for disability. You just go through life with your hands always hurting, which sounds very unpleasant and is a big thing for programmers. And one of the biggest issues are these flat keyboards, this shape of keyboard. Armrest, where we can lift our arm up, those help a lot with that. You all have probably seen that, something that raises your arm up so that the motion of pushing the keys is, if I hold it flat, if I type like this, maybe you can see it. All of the motion is in my hand. If I raise my arm up, it's not really showing on the camera there. Yeah, not showing very well on the camera, but the motion is transferred all the way up through the forearm, through all those muscles. And just like, instead of using the one knuckle at the end, which we can also do tapping straight down, spreading that motion out amongst your more parts of your body is useful. But one of the biggest problems with that flat surface, if I hold my hand like this, it takes effort to put it into a flat form to go on the keyboard, especially both hands. If I relax my hands, they do this. So this is the shape that our hands should be in, right? So let's look at the good keyboards. There's other things. Let me draw a quick picture. Well, I'll get to that when we get to the desk. You can search for ergonomic keyboard. Ergonomic means what's good for the human body. You've probably heard the word because if it's better for the human body, then productivity increases. So management likes that, but it's also just better for the body. If we can find a good picture with a good angle. Oh, this one, you kind of see it in that picture right there. See how when it curves up, it matches that natural shape our hands want to take. That right there will, having a keyboard like that will make a big difference. You see the letters are all in the same place, or a split keyboard, and you can adjust where each one is to fit naturally in your hand. They're made some really nice ones. It's really exaggerated in this. You see that curve, how nice that, or that one, how nice those curves fit. Okay. If we look at this one, especially at that angle, we can see exactly which buttons our middle finger is designed to hit and which ones our pinky is designed to hit. And it fits our natural shape. We don't have to force ourselves to do something different. Large price range, some of them get expensive, but again, that thing I pointed out, some of them are cheap. These are all expensive. The other day when I looked this up pulled this up from the other class, there was a $19.99 keyboard right here. So they get as wide price ranges, cheap, expensive, but at that point I was supposed to couple times, if you're heading into software development, then that is the business expense. So that comes right off of your taxes. So yeah, if you're making really good software development money, you want to have those itemized deductions come tax season. And if you're going to use that keyboard for a while, then that's a business expense that's going to repeat year after year. It's going to spread out over years. Oh, $34.99. That's down in the more normal range where we would see a keyboard at Walmart. So it looks like that's a split keyboard that can connect back together. Just it splits in half, probably has a little bit of curve to it. Maybe not much curve for $35, but it's much better for your hand. Rubber tools. You see some of them have much more curvature than others, gaps in them. And it was definitely something to look into if you're heading into software development and your plans are just your work day is going to involve writing code, because that cheap keyboard shape, the flat one, that is bad for our bodies over time. I'm gonna look at radio keyboard. These are quite different. So this one right here. This one is a little bit more extreme. You would have to learn to retype. And then if you went over to a normal keyboard, it would seem weird, right? So it's a bit extreme, but this it was designed by orthopedic specialists. So a team of engineers and a team of medical experts on the human hand got together, and this is what they said is the best shape for the human hand to type on. Have to learn to retype, and if you go to a normal keyboard, it would seem weird again. But unlike a random engineer who just put things in a grid because that seemed convenient, this is what an actual hand doctor says the human hand should be typing on. So if you're going to be typing code for 40 hours a week in a full-time job, having a tool that doesn't just damage your body will make a big difference. Since I teach IT courses, I feel obliged to talk about this stuff. You can look into that, look into some of those, and remember, it's a business expense. If that's your job, then that's going to make a big difference, because when you're making 6 figures as a software developer, the IRS is going to want a really big chunk of that. If you're working not so great a jobs on your way through school, you're probably not used to how big of a chunk the taxes are going to be on my salaries. It's very surprising first time you see it. Oh, is this thing. Our other main input. This one is even worse. You'll notice that in order to hold this and to use it, I cannot have the same hand posture. That's kind of a problem right there. Right? If we just need to hold it with one hand, we cannot hold it in the usable position. We cannot hold it in the same position we want to use it in. It's kind of an unnatural shape. We have to learn to use that. The person that invented these never meant for this to be the shape. Anybody ever seen the original mouse? Not the ones on Macintosh. It's kind of the Apple company that led to this shape. But the original one, it belongs to the Smithsonian, but it's constantly on tour. It doesn't sit in Washington, D.C. It tours through every museum in the world, because it's the first mouse. That's an important thing in our modern world, right? Original mouse. The late here's. I don't know where it don't need the autocorrect in Google searches, especially if you're just going to add stuff to it. So this one right here. The late 1960s, he had the idea, and he knew what
That's
to do.
the Xerox mouse, isn't it?
I believe he worked for Xerox, yes. But he had a convention to go to, and he wanted to show this idea off. And he had all the components in his office except for a thing to put it inside of. And this was his paper clip holder. So he just dumped the paper clips out and the gears that he needed to fit inside. he had no intention for it to be that to be the shape that those components actually went inside. People did that in the early 1980s, and we never really got away from it. They just stuck with that box shape. And the reason they did that was because they were a new company. They weren't as big as Apple is nowadays. They couldn't afford fancy molding. A square mold is like 100 times cheaper than any sort of rounded off curved mold. Nowadays, Apple can afford most molds. But this original shape, he never intended it for it to be a box. That was just a convenient thing to test the idea with. And it kind of stuck around. But again, with that picture, is my camera still up? So here's basically the mouse shape, right? We put our hand on top of it. Put our hand on top of it and swipe our fingers downward to use that. So right there, that while talking about keyboards, that's the movement I pointed out as like the worst thing to do. And again, that is not the natural shape of our hand. If I relax, the hand wants to do this. So this shape is much better to work with. And they have a new shape that came out. It kind of came out in early 2020, was the first big release of it. So it didn't get a lot of people seeing it around the office. The people that were using it there at the beginning were kind of like that. But vertical mouse, I'll look at those first. Those are the ones that
I could never get used to those. I tried those a few years back. I got one of the earlier, like the Anchor, it was Anchor brand, but it was way more expensive.
Oh,
like I paid
so this one moves like a regular mouse. It's not anchored.
No, I'm saying the Anchor brand one. The one like that far, the one on the far right there. I tried like one of those, that style, and I could not get used to holding my hand that way.
Okay. It should be in the relaxed position. I guess we can see here in the pictures, they also all come at lots of different angles. This one's almost straight up, whereas it looks like the Anchor is still leaned over quite a bit. It's a more natural position. This is the new one. I'll come back and talk about those in a moment. We have some other ones. Oh yeah, this one is more extreme. Whoops, I didn't mean to click on that.
The thumb balls have been out since for a long time.
Oh yeah, trackball. Yeah, lots of different shapes, but the big thing is that natural shape. You can kind of see it here. Notice the wrist. We don't keep our wrist bent the whole time because that's something that will damage the carpal tunnel and lead to carpal tunnel syndrome, which is just a constant pain signal. So having tools like that, if you're going to spend all day using a mouse, but we're programmers, right? We have hotkeys. Probably keep our hands on the keyboard the whole time. Trackball mouse are really good too. These right here came out right before the pandemic. This is a really good shape because it has the advantage of a trackball, only it's a lot faster than the traditional trackball ones, and a more natural shape. We do everything with our thumb. That's one of the biggest advantages of the trackball ones.
It's funny because I used to sell those in the 90s. When they very first came out, those old thumb trackball like that with the hand trigger, they came out with in the early 90s. Or not early, late 90s, early 2000s. I was selling them in the computer store I was running.
No, there was something like that in the 90s. They were uncomfortable, would be one way to say it.
Yes.
They improved it. So now they are super comfortable, super lightweight, super easy to use. It feels like, so they're super comfortable, but The super comfortable versions came out right before the pandemic, so people didn't see their coworkers in the office using them, and it didn't spread much. They are kind of advantageous. They have some nice advantages now. But yeah, like Nathan pointed out, don't buy the old ones. The old ones were uncomfortable. They hurt your hand just picking them up. And when you try to use them for long, they mess up. Trackballs are also good for the human body. These are popular with graphic designers, so the mouse stays put. Most of them have little feet so they don't move, and then your thumb moves, so your arms just kind of relaxing on that. Usually, artists will put something under their elbow so that it's like that straight thing, like we saw in that picture on the vertical mouse, and only your thumb moves, which is kind of nice if you're going to do mouse stuff all day, like graphic designers. There are two sets of muscles in our body, the symmetric are on both sides, that will never get tired. Not the joints. These joints will wear out for certain, but right above your glutes, the muscles on the outside of your hips, the main ones we use when walking, those and the muscles that control our thumb will never get tired. Those two sets of muscles will never send a signal to your brain to say they're tired. The joints will wear out, so don't confuse that with the hips, or anybody that's ever done any running knows that right below those muscles are the glutes, and those will but those two sets of muscles, the top of our hips, bottom of our abdomens, I'm not sure which one they actually call it. The things between the obliques and the glutes. Those muscles and the ones on our thumbs will never get tired. So if you're sitting there doing a mouse all day, like graphic design stuff, moving your thumb around is just your thumb is a good way to do it. A lot of these are also slower. Some of them might be fast. I think some people get really good at it and they'll just swipe the mouse and know how far they're going. Generally, it's slower, so it's good for the fine detail control like we want in graphic design. They're popular with graphic designers. Vertical mouse is the one that's the most natural shape for the human hand, so it doesn't wear out our hands. The desk itself, that big square one. Let me draw this picture. Y'all probably well aware of this. Got a big square desk. That'll work. So here's the desk, and beside that we have our chair, and put a little stick man working at that desk. And if we look at this, everybody's heard of gravity, right? Laws of physics, know about gravity. So all of the weight is being pulled down to this spot right here. And that spot right there is one of the spots on the human body. That is not a spot intended to take all of our weight. I think everybody's heard of that, right? Sitting in a chair gets uncomfortable. So that's why we have a 3-hour class and take a break during that 3 hours to get out of the chairs. Writing code for 3 hours, we could do that, but sitting in chairs for 3 hours straight is a bit of a problem because of that right there. Gravity puts all of our weight right in that weird position, and that's what causes back problems for people at desk jobs. And the back is like the core of your body, so when you start having problems with your back, it's hard to do anything. So better position, we need a better position to work in. Standing desks are really good for multiple reasons, right? We get more activity at a standing desk. Right? Like I'm doing at the podium, I have a tendency to step back and over to the side and move around a lot more than I would from a chair. That's one of the best things about it. On a standing desk, the weight is distributed down to your feet, which is actually a smaller point, but it is a point that is intended to take the entire weight of your body for long periods of time. So it doesn't get long-term damage. Like right now, my feet hurt because I've been standing in front of a classroom since early this morning. But when I go home and sit on the couch for a few minutes, that pain's going to go away. the back pain from a desk chair is a lingering pain. It lasts, kind of like the carpal tunnel thing. It's the permanent damage to our body. So standing desks have lots of advantages. It's also easier to go do other stuff, leave and get your steps in, all of that stuff, right? That's an important one. As soon as the technology existed, it showed up everywhere, right? To get our steps in, and that's just because it's a very important thing. Just having that number to remind people is like, oh, we can see that number and be like, I didn't get enough movement today. I better just take some extra steps. But it shows up in all of our technology because it's a very important thing, and standing does help with that. But does anybody know the best position for a human to work from is? I took my picture away. Yeah, it has to do with this picture. You probably know the same. I think we covered this in the other class. So from our sitting position, this right here is the problem. The weight all distributed to the bottom of the back, which is not intended to take all of our weight all the time, not for 8 hours a day. So does anybody know what the best position for humans to work in is?
Would it be that like lean back zero gravity
Yes.
position?
Yes, zero gravity, which they also make something in cars. Car dealers put something in they call zero gravity seats. If we look for zero gravity workstation, and make sure you look for workstation images. This is zero gravity position. So I have no idea what they put in cars on zero gravity because you're not going to drive from that position. But from that last picture, whoops. From that last picture, look at the weight distribution there. Our weight is distributed across the entire length of our body. And on these into a very, very nicely padded surface. So it's distributed softly. With a nice distribution, laid back, have the screens hanging over top. That's the best position to work from. Notice I think for workstation, not desk. If you're in a position where, like it might be Grant will pay for workstations, but not desk. Because a desk is just furniture. But a workstation, when we budget things and claim tax write-offs and all of that stuff, you want to make sure you look for a workstation, not a desk. But that's the best position. Those are kind of expensive. The Scorpion desk here, those are fully automated. They took a picture with it upright, that does roll back. But it all folds up and you sit down and push a button, then all that stuff comes out and then it rolls back to the zero gravity position. So it looks really, really awesome while you're working in that too. But like this one, if you have a split ergonomic keyboard, you can put it in the best spot for each hand. Looks like a mouse would probably fall over that, but we're all software developers, so we'd be using hotkeys, not the mouse anyway. Probably prefer hotkeys over the mouse anyway. Those get kind of expensive. They do make smaller furniture ones. I'll look for a zero gravity chair. So yeah, down to like lawn chair type. But some of these are still desk-like. That one looks really comfortable because they don't even need padding. There's just nothing behind you. And yeah, it was a good picture. This picture probably. Yeah, like that is a professional model. Obviously, the first time you go lean back into that position, you're going to panic a little. But a professional model is just going to sit there and smile. Same thing with this guy. Probably a panic running through his mind when they showed up for a photo shoot and they said, "Okay, sit in this chair," and then that happened. But
I actually have that. I have the zero gravity position available on. I have a adjustable bed and has that. It takes a little getting used to, but when you gain from that position, it's actually very comfortable and you can go way more hours than your wife wants you to.
This one, yeah, it's just the best position for humans for even working and stuff. So if you're going to sit at a computer all day long, I just want to point out those things. the best tool, using the proper tool for the job, not just any old cheap keyboard. Get a keyboard that's not going to damage your body. Instead of a uncomfortable desk that you know is going to hurt your body when you sit there and write code for long periods of time. Get the right one. Because if you're doing this if this is going to be your job, right? You're planning on doing this for years. That's different than just a sudden impulse purchase. That's a tool that you're going to use for work for years to come. So the expense on it's good. The expense of buying the nice tools for the job that for your job makes a big difference. I just wanted to point out some of those points. Something to keep in mind. There's other health benefits in modern America. I know you've heard about all that stuff over and over and over again. You all heard those things over and over and over again. I just like to point them out because if you're in this class, I'm showing you some of the skills you'll need to sit at a desk for 40 hours a week for a full-time career, and doing so is not good for the human body. So you want to keep that in mind and kind of work in some other things. I had a couple points about Git that I wanted to look at. A couple on the list here. Let's look at differences. So I started a commit, and I did not remember seeing this one earlier when we did this. Oh, the documents. So need something in here. Here is something in the repository. That way we can do some stuff. But then I think where I thought I would. Didn't I just open that as a project? Okay. I don't know why it didn't go right to that folder. Words, I'll just call it that. Words.txt. Just a random file so we can see stuff happening. Oh yeah, I guess another thing with that why isn't that showing up down here? Oh, this is line doing other stuff in the background. That's why it's not working correctly. That one had priority, so okay, maybe if I do this. Yeah. Since I usually use Sublime, the reason I never thought about that in PowerShell is because down at the bottom of the text editor, it will say what branch you're on. VS Code does the same thing, right? So most of our text editors will.
You said that the other day, but I didn't see it. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough. I don't know.
You have to have the other software installed to get it.
It should also work without the other software, because it will, without the other software, it counts as a link to open the other software. Let me try opening this again because Sublime was in the middle of doing something. Maybe because it is a Git repository. Sublime with the current repository. Oh, there it is. So I have the message down here at the bottom. Do you see there? Tia, I think that was Tia that asked.
Yeah, okay, I see it now.
It's got like
Interesting. I meant because my screen doesn't, it's never like fit the screen.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, if you hide the status bar, it's not going to show there. But it opens the software, and on Sublime, if you don't have the other software, that is a link to go download the other software. VS Code, I believe, shows it somewhere down there as well. Probably writes it in there. And Sublime is fully customizable, so I could go in here and just put JSON, say, tell it where to write it somewhere on the screen. But that was here. And do it from one we looked at earlier, because I think this is what you were referring to. Sometimes we do go to the terminal, or sometimes we're in the terminal because we don't need all that other stuff. I'll add that file and make a commit. I'll just do it the short way here. First commit, just random message to put in there. And now add some stuff to it. Oh, yeah, words. Sublime words.txt. Here are more words in the second commit. Save that, close that, add that, make the commit. Random message. We know how to do that, so that's not the important part here. One more commit to it, I'll make another file. So Sublime, another file.txt. Here's something different. Save that, close that. Add stop. And commit that. Probably enough. So I just wanted to show a shortcut here. So so we get one line. We see all our previous commits and we saw how to pull the things up. We saw the div command, right? Type in the div, we don't see anything. Git div, copy that, paste that in, and it's showing us the difference on that particular commit compared to what the branch was before. Sometimes we need a little bit more detail, like we need everything about this file. So what I click the second one. You'll notice it says new file, so it's tracking all the way back to the beginning. There was a new file at one point, originally this stuff. If we want to shorten that and see just that with the parent, it div, paste that in and push a caret and then exclamation mark. Actually, we could do another commit there. Let me pull that back up. Git log, one line. So if we do git div on this last one, it's not showing us any difference. It's showing us what it is different from where we currently are. I guess I should have shown it that way. So git difference from this commit, and it shows us a new file was created. Here is something different. So it shows us the difference from where we currently are to that commit. But if we're checking things out, we probably want to see, if we ask for that difference, we might want to see what difference. That's a weird noise. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay. The speaker in here. Really weird. Want to make sure that didn't cut off. Okay, so we might want to see what the difference between this one just that was added in this particular commit. So instead of the current spot, instead of the difference between head and that commit, we want to see the difference between that commit and its parent. Or between any two commits. So we can say git div, and I'll paste in that second one. I'll do the third one again, because that's no different than what we have here. If we compare it to the head, it is the head. So we paste that in, and then caret exclamation mark will compare it to the parent. It will compare it to the commit right before. So then we can see those commits. Well, it's the same message if we look two back. We don't have to stop and think about what two commits back or what was done before that. We can say this commit compared to its parent. Or on the second one, control copy git diff, paste that and compare it to its parent. And then we only see the changes from that particular commit. When I was putting that software together, that was the functionality I wanted. And when I typed it in, it was like, oh, wait, I don't think we covered that in class. So I want to show that shortcut. I believe we can do any 2 commits that way. It's not one that happens very often. The power just flashed briefly, so if you suddenly lose this, we might just call it for the day, because yeah, if the Zoom call suddenly shuts off, that might be it for today. There was one, I want to make sure to get this other one in. I believe we can do that for any 2 commits. Let me see if I can do that real quick before lose power for good. So like from the this commit, so git diff this commit and then caret back to this commit. Oh no, it doesn't like that. Never mind about that. So the whoops, commit name caret exclamation gives us just the parent. So that compares us to the parent of that commit. Oh, I need another branch. So get branch. We didn't see this either. So when we did checkout earlier, so get log one line. If we want to go check out this first.
Did we lose you?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm
Well, we
still
see us
here, but I
now.
think I'm here and
Somehow it's still hosting, but he's like not, it's not capturing anymore.
Can you hear me from the laptop will still work?
yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That computer, the power button's not coming back on. I'll finish up for my laptop and our power's done flashed off like 3 times. So
Yeah, it's flickering here too.
if it cuts off again, I'll do this. I just wanted to show this one thing. So we saw how to check out an earlier commit. I'll just copy this and get check out that earlier commit. And we went to the detached head state, right? I keep looking up where the camera normally is. We went to the detached head state, and earlier we used this command they said to get back to the, I guess, attached head state. That's what I labeled the buttons when I was testing the software. But we can also branch off to a new, this one up here, if we want to create a new branch from that, hit switch -C for check out another branch, and then a new branch name. Other branch, I'll just call it that. Switch to a new branch. So that one was written on the screen. We didn't actually see it, but that when we check it out, that's kind of another way to start a new branch from any given point. Go check it out, make sure you're in the right, look over everything, make sure you're in the right spot, and just do another branch off to the side. Yeah, the Wi-Fi is not on the electricity. All the Wi-Fi here is battery powered. We all, all the employees have laptops, not at our computers. We have laptops with docking stations. So we power them that way. So the batteries are always charged and the Wi-Fi never goes down. So that when the power goes out, there's time to save work, wrap up Zoom calls and that sort of stuff. I use my laptop here. This isn't the school issued laptop. The school issued laptop is locked down like high school Chromebooks. Can't really do anything on it except check my email. But I use my computer because I like to have permission to do stuff. But kind of convenient tonight because even if it goes dark, I can still finish this last thing. Because now we have a couple branches. That one was written on the screen, so I guess it's not really a surprise. We just didn't explicitly see that in class. And we want to merge these. So let me go back to the main, check out the main, and clear. We could do all our differences and stuff, right? Get diff main, and other branch, see all the stuff that's happening. But that's not the same as previewing a merge, right? That's not quite the same. So if we want to merge them, type git merge, and we can also do -- no -commit. So don't commit to it. And also, you probably want to do both of these -- no -ff. So if it's a fast forward one, like the other branch, all it did was add another file. Actually, we should probably do that on the other branch. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do this. I just want to show what the command is: -- no commit -- no fast forward. If we do this, no remote for the current branch. What? Oh, I have to say what to merge on it. Git branch. Sorry, I have to say which 2 branches to merge. I got all excited about the parameters. So git merge main with other branch, and then do no commit, no fast forward. A fast forward is like if the other branch, all we did was add another file. There's no possible way there could be conflicts if all it has is 1 file more. Then we don't need to check anything. We don't need to do anything fancy. That's where the fast forward ones are. Then a regular merge happens with a commit. So we can skip all that and we get a message. Let me add something to that other branch. Git check out other branch. So this would be a fast forward merge. So while we're over here, add another file, more stuff, .txt. Here is a new file, not in the other branch. So the only difference is a completely new file that doesn't exist anywhere. There's no chance of hitting a conflict when we merge those. Add that, make the commit, I'll just call it that. So now if we say git merge main with other branch and do it no commit, no fast forward, this is what happens when we hit the pull request on GitHub. It doesn't just merge it. I guess it's like a copy. It makes a copy of everything and merges the copy, and then we'll get information about conflicts and things here. So if there's a conflict, it will show up still. We can get that, and it maybe not even saved in the file where it would mess up your stuff, those commit logs. But that's kind of a couple important parameters, because then we can preview the merge. And then if it went well, if I go to get status, the merge is ready. So we just have to run git commit in order to finish the merge. Because we did all the parts of, we told it to merge. Oh, it said right here, stop before committing. So it didn't do the very last step. So if we're ready to take that last step, everything checks out, then we can do that. Okay, so power's flashing on and off here in Sellersburg. That's probably going to continue. So I can hear the rain hitting the roof, and the speakers keeps making odd noises. And well, the computer in the room already went off, and pushing the power button didn't do anything. So hopefully it didn't fry out or anything. But since there's storms and stuff messing things up, might go ahead and wrap that up. There's a couple other little ones I noticed, but we can look at those on Thursday. Because just like these, it's stuff we saw, but parameters that weren't thrown in there. So no commit, no fast forward, no commit, no FF.
Just make sure I understood. This is how GitHub basically does the whole secure when you're doing a pull request needs authorization. That's where it's putting the pause in, is essentially doing a no commit, no fast forward. Until it's approved.
That wouldn't be the authorization. This would be after the confirm.
Okay.
Right when we do the pull request, it goes through and then gives us those green marks everywhere, and then we hit confirm. Or on GitHub, I believe it's labeled commit. So we have that last confirmation. This is where that shows up.
Okay.
So it just delays the confirmation, but delaying the confirmation is probably a good idea if we're doing it in the terminal as well. So what do we see tonight? Posh Git. I apologize. I should have thought of that and shown it earlier in the semester, but my personal preference is to not see it, so I didn't think about it and nobody asked about it. But it did show up in the discussion boards last week. So like a commit hash, so we have the hash for a commit, and then caret exclamation mark gives us the parent of the commit, which is really useful for differences, useful for diff. So then we can see, instead of the diff between the head and that commit, we can see the difference between that commit and the one right before it. And then this one right here, delaying the confirmation when we go to make a merge is really, really useful, and we can make sure it went well. So a couple useful things. I just noticed those over the weekend when I was putting some stuff together, and it's like, oh, we didn't see those in class. And there were a couple other ones, but with the storms and power flashing on and off, that's probably a good bit for tonight. That way we don't cut off in the middle of something, but yeah, the laptop would keep working. But if the power goes out, the laptop charger won't keep working. So that's a little bit different too. But does anybody have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, and the big thing tonight is that that little spiel I give in every class, because if you're heading towards a working career, remember, sitting at a desk doing things on a computer is one of the worst things you can do to the human body. So keep things in mind, like a nice keyboard, one that won't cause permanent damage to your body by using it. The lumbar problems, lower back problems that develop from office chairs, because the lower back is not intended to take all of our weight all day long, not like our feet. So even standing desks are better for that. The natural shape, that's the big one. So like on a keyboard or a mouse, we have to hold in that unnatural shape. So if you can keep your hand, and the more often you can keep your hand in this shape right here, the less it's going to damage your body working at a computer for your entire working career. I guess that'll wrap it up for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all on Thursday. Everybody have a good one.
Thank
Thank you. Have a
you.
good day.
I wonder if I can stop the recording from this computer. The one that's actually recording is no longer is powered down.